Buongiorno, business investors and entrepreneurs. We are a group of expatriates who have been living in Italy for 3 years. We're here today to tell you more about Italy and help you make a personal recommendation about whether you should do business with Italy. First, we'll start with an introduction video.
Biking along Florida all the way to Valpolicella.
It's such a unique way to see Italy. You get to do activities in addition to bike, so it's a great balance to experience the natural beauty and culture. I love it.
My name is Josephine Kong, and I'll be going over Italy's infrastructure. Francis Pellegrino will talk about the economy. Alec Nibro will go over the business ownership. Rodolfo Chavarria Lozoya will go over the market, and Ivana Bland will talk about the culture. Please leave all questions until the end and silence your cell phones. As mentioned before, my name is Josephine. I work for the Infrastructure Global Hub for Italy's branch, and I've been collecting data about Italy's infrastructure projects. Today I'll be going over our location, the communication, and transportation. According to TripSavvy.com, Italy is located in South Central Europe, and it is very recognizable on the map because it's shaped like a boot. We have 3 seas, the Adriatic Sea, Ionian Sea, and Tyrrhenian Sea, and northern Italy borders countries like Switzerland, Slovenia, Austria, and France. The coast of Italy is known for its Mediterranean climate, and the south is hot and dry, the inlands are cool and wet, and the north gets snow in the winter. For the land, Italy is 40% mountainous, meaning that it's great for skiing and hiking, especially because it's surrounded by the Alps and Apennine mountain ranges. According to liveandinvestoverseas.com, Italy has a fairly developed communication system, but it's not up to par with the United States standards. For their telephone service, Italy has 95 million cellular lines and 20 million telephone lines. For broadcasting, Italy has 5,000 radio stations and 358 television stations. However, it's known for having really slow internet service, so if you compare Italy's internet service providers with the ones in the US or other European countries, it's very costly. Finally, according to nationsencyclopedia.com, Italy has 136 airports, and many of them are international. Their airline carrier is Alitalia, and it connects it to 60 other countries. And for their seaports, they were very popular for carrying cargo up until the 1970s because of technological advances. But nowadays, a lot of cargo is transported by road via the autostrade, which are interconnected highways that are very common in the north. But these highways have a lot of traffic, so people are turning to the rail system, which is very convenient, a lot cheaper, more punctual and comfortable than their other European counterparts. Next up, we have economics. One last thing, my personal recommendation is that Italy is a great place to do business with because of its central location in Europe, and it's surrounded by waters. It's also great for communication, although I would be aware of the slow and costly internet services. And lastly, internet provides a lot of modes of transportation, making it a great place to do business around the country in. Now we have economics.
Hello everyone, my name is Francis and I'm a retired Senior Chief of Economics of Italy. Today we're going to be going over some of Italy's GDP value, where the sources of income come from Italy, and what the standards of living are for some of the citizens are in Italy. So, according to tradingeconomics.com, Italy is the 8th largest GDP in the world. This means that they have the ability to be one of the leading competitors to other countries in the surrounding areas. Their GDP is valued at about $1,850 billion. This means that businesses that are already thriving in Italy are doing very well, opposed to the very low population rates they already have. Understandably, the rate of growth for the GDP annually is very low in comparison to other countries. It only comes to about 1.6%, where other countries usually have an average about 3.5%. This will be becoming an issue in the future, but depending on the economic state of Italy right now, this value is actually projected to rise in the coming years. So we have potential to have very large expansion considering exports. Italy is one of the leading export countries and has some of the most profitable exporting values. It is understood that if your product has the Made in Italy label on it, your value of your product can go up drastically compared to other products. According to OECD.org, the largest amount of revenue that Italy gets is from their service industry and not their manufacturing industry. This is a bit disappointing in terms that many of us will be deciding to manufacture new products instead of offering services in Italy when we decide to open a new business here. Families in Italy have a large amount of disposable income. It is projected that they have about $26,000 every per year to spend on products. This means that once the business is established in Italy, families will have you'll have a larger percentage to have incomes flow in based on these disposable incomes. When we think about the standard of living in Italy, there are many factors that can go into how the people are treated and how we can see profits from this. So when we look at housing, according to globalpropertyguides.com, the premium housing market in Venice of Italy is just under $5,000 per square meter in U.S. currency. Compared to an average household that will have an average house, it is only about $3,500 per square meter for housing. Italy offers free health care for everyone, but they do charge very small fees up front for beginning people. Italy has because of this, Italy has a very large life expectancy, and this will also translate to a larger age range in products being offered here. So when we enter the market here, we will see that we can offer a more niche amount of products to a larger age range, and that will include more revenue and sales. So when we think about Italy, we like to think of beautiful landscapes and delicious food. These are just a few references you can expect from living in Italy if you were to do business here and you gather up all the experiences. So for my personal recommendation, I have talked about how Italy is one of the largest GDPs in the world right now, coming in at 8th place. There is incredible family disposal for revenue, and despite this, we can see that service is one of the dominating industries over manufacturing, and this will translate into lower revenues of sales. So we know that we have free healthcare here in Italy, and this will translate to longer life expectancies and bigger age ranges and niches. Walking up to the stage now is the business ownership presenter.
Hello, my name is Alec, and I've been a financial advisor for mid-sized firms in Italy's private sector for the past 5 years. And today I'm going to be talking about business ownership, more specifically taxes, restrictions, and competition. And so starting with taxes, according to PwC, all corporations are subject to a corporate income tax, which is 24%, and additionally, all corporations are subject to a regional production tax, which is the IRAP, and that is 3.9%. And not only that, but any vessels that are traveling in Italy's waters are subject to a tonnage tax, and this is where we see the larger vessels get cut a break, because the more tonnage a vessel is carrying, the less per euro they're charged. And with all these different types of taxes, Italian corporations are required to make 15 separate payments every year, and it's estimated to take around 269 hours every year for a company to file and pay their taxes. And so this level of taxation is so high that the private sector in Italy is likely to feel the pinch. And so now moving on to restrictions. When you're first starting a business, you're likely going to receive a couple permits. And so usually the first permit you look into is a building permit for where your business will be. And so in Italy, to obtain a building permit, according to Veeam, it takes around 135 days just to obtain it, and 30 days for other various departments. And once you're in the construction process, you're going to want to connect your building to power, and this is where we see a major slowdown. It takes over 100 days to submit an external connection application to utility providers, and after the providers receive that information, they're going to, it takes over 2 months after that to finally get electricity to your building. And now for international trade. According to the TMF group, for exporting and importing goods in Italy, it takes 19 days to import and 18 days to export, and this is due to a holdup at the Italian border, where it takes authorities around 10 days to process any necessary paperwork or documents, and oftentimes the shipping containers get held up in the process. And so now I want to speak to enforcing business contracts a little bit as a corporation in Italy. Italy ranks among the worst in the world for enforcing these type of contracts. It takes over 1,000 days to complete a contract because corporations have to jump through over 41 different hoops. And now I'd like to speak to the competition a little bit. And so there's one major difference between the northern region and southern region of Italy, and it's that the southern region is significantly less competitive. In fact, the government even offers grants for businesses who are willing to invest in southern Italy. And these government grants can be up to 65% of the amount invested in purchasing assets in southern Italy. And so now for my recommendation, from a business ownership standpoint, I do not recommend completing business in Italy due to the high amount of taxation and the overly complex process for starting a business and paying those taxes. And so now I'll pass it off to my colleague to talk a little bit about the market.
Hello, I'm Rodolfo. I work in the marketing department of a medium-sized business in Italy, and I'm here to inform you about the imports and exports, the industries, and the tourism in Italy. According to WorldTopExports.com, Italian imports account for 3% of the overall global imports in the world, which account for $16 trillion. The top imports are mineral fuels, engineering products, machinery, and tobacco. According to WorldTopExports.com also, the Italian exports account for 31.8% of the total Italian GDP, and the top exports are clothes and textiles, pharmaceuticals, steel and iron, and vehicles. According to WatchEconomy.com, the top three Italian industries are the manufacturing industry, the agricultural industry, and the tourism industry. Manufacturing. There's a lot of small and medium-sized businesses in Italy, which focus on high-quality goods and low-cost paying jobs. In the agriculture industry, There are about 1.6 million farms in Italy, and there are about 1.6 million farms in Italy, and they account for about 12.7 million acres of land, hectares of land, and most of the farms are family owned and run, and they're about, the average size is 6 to 8 hectares of land. And for last but not least is the tourism industry. Tourism in Italy is very popular around the world. It's the 5th most among international arrivals, with about 48 million people per year. It accounts for 12% of the jobs in Italy and about 11% of the total Italian GDP. According to PlanetFair.com, the best places you can visit in Italy is the Colosseum, the Sistine Chapel, the Tower of Pisa, Venice, and the Vatican. But since Italy is one of the top tourist places in the world, that also draws in a lot of criminals. Criminals tend to pickpocket a lot of people in busy areas, so always be aware when you're touristing in Italy, and mostly on some of these very busy tourist sites. For my personal recommendation, so Italy is a great tourist destination. It's home of some high quality goods like cars and clothes, and also always beware of criminals when walking around busy areas in Italy. And next up is culture.
Hello, I'm Ivana, and I'm a foreign sales representative in Italy, and I will be going over the business meeting etiquette, language, and religion. So when doing business in Italy, there is a lot more that goes into it than in regards to communication and culture. It's very important to keep in mind and to follow a form of business etiquette when conducting negotiations or business. So with planning, for starters, businessculture.com states that in order to overcome any possible language barriers, it's important to form a written communication. So an email is the best approach to kind of begin your ideas and to pave the way to a subsequent phone call or visit. It's very important to plan ahead before doing the actual business meeting. So even if it's just to have an outline, to have questions ready, or to even have translated words that make the process of communicating a lot quicker. Also is handshaking for meeting protocol. It's very important to shake hands during introduction and departure. It's important to shake all hands individually with each member of the group. In some instances, if you are friends with them or if you have a family relationship, it is common to give a side soft kiss on the cheek, but it's almost rarely ever used in a business setting. It's also very important to dress formally in any meeting. They believe that the way you dress shows how professional and serious you are in conducting business. In business with Italy, it's very often that negotiations are processed very slowly, both because Italians tend to carefully evaluate the advantages and risk of doing business with someone, and because the classified decision-making process of Italian companies are very slow. A sense of urgency is often taken as an attempt to weaken one's bargaining position, so I highly recommend just taking things slow and letting them go at their own pace, because once the agreements have been reached, your initial partner will be strongly convinced that they made the right decision, which benefits both parties. The last thing to consider is business meals. Almost always, the business meeting ends with an invitation to go out and eat. They usually go into a simple restaurant, and it is a way to socialize and to build a stronger relationship. Italians also pay close attention to the way that, to your table manners and the way that you interact and communicate in a less professional setting like a restaurant instead of a business boardroom. Apart from the business etiquette, it's also important to remember the language and the religion in Italy. So according to livescience.com, Italy's main language is Italian, with 93% of them being able to speak it. Their second most spoken language is English because it is such a large tourist attraction. Although the letters J, K, W, X, and Y are never used except in loan words taken from other languages, which is really interesting. Lifeinitially.com acknowledges that their main religion is Roman Catholic. It's no surprise since the Vatican City is located in Rome, where the Pope resides. It's a huge part of their culture to attend Mass every Sunday and to pray before meals. Overall, Italy is a great place to not only visit, but to work with. There is so much history and culture that is given from this amazing place. Although the language barrier and the long negotiation process does feel like a slight bump in the road, once overcoming it, they make for great partners. It's also very important to remember not to do any subtle actions that could possibly upset them, as they are easily offended. In conclusion, we went over the 5 main points that is used to consider when conducting business. The first one was the infrastructure. Italy's geographic location and transportation options make it a great place in doing business with, but you should be cautious of the slow and costly internet service. The second point is economy. Italy is the 8th largest gross domestic product worldwide, with strong family economy and generous amounts of disposable income. The third is business ownership. The untimely restriction and high taxes outweigh the benefits of generous government grants and the competition in the South. The fourth is market. Italy is home to some of the best quality in cars and clothes, and it's one of the biggest tourist destinations in the world, but it's very important to keep in mind of the high pickpocket rate and the petty criminal activity. The fifth and final point is culture. With proper etiquette and an open mind to Italy's flourishing culture and customs, it is a great place to not only visit, but to work alongside with. Overall, we agreed that yes, we do recommend working with Italy, although Alec did say no when it came to business ownership due to the fact of high taxation and extreme product time consumption. Now that we have briefly gone over the 5 main points again and given our own personal recommendation, I want to say thank you to everyone for listening, and we hope when considering where and with whom to conduct business with, or to even visit, Italy is one of the first countries that you think of. Are there any questions?